order. Roll call whenever you're ready.
Commissioner Donnie Carter.
Dawn, you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Nina Forsythe.
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
And Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here. Starting off the meeting with special presentations and requests, we today have scheduled a meeting with the members of the Frostburg City Fire Department. Whoever wants to start.
I'm sure. I'm Todd Dogston, President. Dane Lancaster, Treasurer. Gary Tumman, Business Manager. Joe Hoffman, Captain and past fire chief. Go ahead, Joe.
So I just prepared a couple opening remarks. Most of you are obviously aware of the reason for our meeting today. The last special session, there were several questions and comments that were raised, so we're here to address those individually. Personally, I've not been involved in the ARPA funding process to this point. The recent funding changes, the penny funding change, or any other city council matter for the past few years. But I watched the session the other day and I was appalled at what I observed. I know how hard this team works. I know how thankless of a job it is. I'm sure it's something that every member of the council could relate to. But what I saw was the team's integrity, competency, and accountability questioned in such a way that was troubling to me. Some of the members of this team bring expertise from years of professional work. We have bankers, professional business managers, professional firefighters, a wide array of professions. That's a lot of experience, and it becomes increasingly obvious to me the ever-widening knowledge gap that exists between the elected officials and even the citizens of what they think we do and what we actually do here. It should be disturbing for anyone around the city of Frostburg to see such a disconnect. Let's think about those lives that have been lost due to structure fires in the town. We can think about what we stand to lose, what's on the line every day. This isn't a civic organization. This is an essential arm of public safety, and a commitment to providing that public safety, it should be a priority. It should not be an afterthought. We've been blessed with support over the years from the city in the past, and it needs to get stronger. The city and the department together face challenges and hazards, and we must work together to achieve that mission. Members of the council, I implore you not only to take the opportunity today to ask any questions, but to get involved, get educated, and become an advocate for this fire department, for your fire department, moving forward. With that said, representatives of this department are going to work through several parts of the discussion based upon a transcript that we have prepared for the special work session.
So what I have is I have the transcript from your last meeting. And what we'd like to do is where the negative comments came in, I'd like to read them and then have a discussion about them, what brought them about, and what you need to know is all we're really looking for. Obviously, we need your help. So this isn't a bid session, it's just what's going on, what do you need? So, Commissioner Carter, it appears that they haven't been straightforward with us on a lot of things. What does that mean? I'm asking Donnie.
Okay. Dawn, did you hear that?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I had a lot of wind here. What was that again?
In the last meeting, you said it appears that we haven't been straightforward with you on a lot of things. What does that mean?
The city, county, and university gives the fire department approximately $350,000 a year. I think that's the number. I don't have it in front of me right now, but the budget that was given to us only shows somewhere around $315,000 in income.
The budget we submitted to you shows $332,000. The number you came up with was $345,000. The money that is missing out of that is 508 money that we don't get. We have to turn in receipts to the county, and then they reimburse us for purchases. So it's not actual income that comes to us.
Todd, let me correct you on that. 508 money, 5 years ago, the county took over the administration. The money comes from the state to the county. When we want to buy something, we send them the invoice and they pay the invoice. We have nothing to do with it. So it doesn't go through our financial coffers.
Money never touches our hand or our accounts.
Right, so that's why that's a
Okay.
discrepancy.
It's not showed in there. So that's why this is, our budget that we gave you is the budget of our fire department from the money we get from you and the gambling, just a couple little things that shows on the budget. That is a budget.
Okay, okay.
Anything else, Donnie?
No, well, the one other thing I do have a question about, and and I can't remember the name of the rating, but with the truck, I mean, first off, nobody's trying to say we're not trying to give you any money. I mean, we want to know what's really out there, what we're looking at here. But Matt has told us a couple times that, you know, everybody's insurance in town's going to go up because of this rating that's given to the trucks. But from what we've gathered, that rating went out the window years and years ago.
You wanna talk about it, Joe?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as far as the ISO, as you guys are aware, and I think it's in the notes that Elizabeth had prepared already, while the rating doesn't play into it, we're looking at a 2-year build cycle on a 20-year-old truck that already has signs of wear from age. I think it would be different if we were in maybe like Nebraska where it's dry, we would be able to stretch it out to 30 years. The reality is the salt, the amount of damage of corrosion, and once the frame or any integral components fail, once that testing once it fails ladder testing, it's now a very heavy paperweight because we do follow an FPA. And FPA says you have to replace it at a 20-year mark. That's the standard that comes from the National Fire Protection Administration. So that's the standard that we're going to follow. If we were to wait until that thing fails ladder testing, we're now out of an aerial device for 2 years. And Cumberland City recently went through that. They had a ladder that did not meet the minimum performance standards because it extended beyond 20 years of life. I don't know how old it was when it failed, but they had to operate out of an engine, which substantially, it put people's lives at risk. It puts firefighters' lives at risk. It puts the civilians don't have a resource that they need. And absolutely ISO would be affected by that because then you do not have the aerial device that ISO rating that we have requires you to have. So then the impact would be felt.
I mean, and that's great. I mean, that's a great explanation. It's just stuff that it would have been better if this would have been explained to us at the time. You know, not come to us saying everybody's insurance is going up because the ISO rating is different. You know, give us a reason why that, now that helps tremendously, is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
And just a little history with our truck. The last 2 years, the truck's been sent out, had the frame sandblasted and treated, and it'll need it again this year. It's just part of the salt up here. So our frames already had to be treated twice, and it's a huge expense.
And the ladder box.
So, I mean, it's getting there. You just can't get under these trucks.
Now, with a new truck, do they have them now where they do treat the frame with something? So you won't have to do stuff like that?
Yeah, they're all electro-dipped. They do more
We have it painted
isolation.
before, while it's being built, like we had our new engine, had it painted. And the other thing that we're gonna want to put in place, which we have started last year, is every year, we're gonna take it to either Grantsville Trucking or the state has a underbody wash that the trucks can drive over and it'll clean the underbody. Of course, that wouldn't happen till spring,
Right.
but
it's definitely something we factored in. Like when we built the last engine, it was part of discussion, material choice, treatments. I mean, you can even Line-X your frame rails, but there's a lot of debate that actually does anything to protect against corrosion. So it's something that we've kept an eye on because we pretty much, 164 was rotten in part because of the corrosion. And we're doing everything we can to keep 161, the new engine, to fight the corrosion battle on that, but they all rust. They're custom built pieces, so
Sure.
they don't hold up the
they
same.
rust and corrode. We also get aluminum bodies put on. I think 161 or 164 had a stainless steel body.
Yeah, that's right.
The new one has aluminum, and the new truck will have aluminum body on it also. So that helps, but they corrode.
Sure.
Anything else, Donnie?
No, they were my two questions. It's like I said, it's, it's better to have stuff explained to you than trying to figure out differences in numbers and stuff, but I appreciate that.
Nina, your comment was yeah, so what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
You have questions or?
Well, yeah, basically, just following up on what Donnie said, and in light of that, I mean, I agree with you, Joe, there has been a disconnect, and if the chief had come to our monthly meetings and given a report, there would have been at least much less of a disconnect. We could talk one-on-one about what the challenges are, what you need, and why, and not have everything kind of by hearsay and by incomplete information. So it would really be advantageous, I think, to both of us to have at least that monthly connection so we can talk about these things, ask follow-up questions like we're doing here. I mean, this is a lot more than I have known in the last couple years about what your challenges are. It would have been nice to have known that a long time ago.
Or by the same token, the council could come to the fire station, talk to us. We're available all the time.
Yeah.
Before bringing it up at a
Kevin's in our
public meeting.
meetings, we're available all the time. No
And
one's
we've had
ever asked.
meetings with yourself, Elizabeth. I mean, they could have been invited. I mean, we didn't single you guys out. So, I mean, we have sat down with.
I do
You
believe,
guys.
though, it's in the charter that we're supposed to receive a monthly report.
Monthly report.
An annual, you,
I don't mean like a written
Our budget.
report, a monthly, like just a report from the chief about,
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think going years
I don't think
past, we would go and read usually just a log of the calls and any kind of information. And I know that kind of, I'll be honest, I know during my time as chief, Thursdays didn't fit. I was in classes for every Thursday for fire-related training. So it's something that's a tough ask. I mean, let's be honest, we're not collecting any salaries. No one here does. So, you're talking about a 60-hour work week probably, the amount of work that I put into it, or Matt's put into it, or any of the other previous chiefs. I mean, it's a lot of work. So it's tough. And I know that in the past we've had delegates that have sat down. Brian Cosner did that for years.
yeah, he was very faithful in attending the meetings and giving a report.
And if that's something that's useful, maybe it's something we can work to try to make sure that someone's there to just deliver that log. But at the same time, I know my phone's always on. I probably say the same for most people.
The thing is, I don't even know what questions to ask when you say my phone's always on. Like, I don't know. That's why, having a report from you guys first then leads to the questions.
Sure. And I don't expect that anyone, we do have the subject matter experts on building apparatus or anything related to the fire service because we're really fortunate in our department to have that much knowledge. We can be the resource. The comment was made during that meeting that Commissioner Carter was talking to someone who lives in the hotel. That conversation needs to happen with us and ask us, why are you doing this? Because there are a lot of people that can bring way more experience than one single person. And they're all right in this department. So we're always here to provide that resource. And it's a two-way road. I think we both need to get better doing that. I can agree with that.
In my 13 years as fire chief, the report I would present to the council at the meeting was basically what they said, how many calls we had, and that was it. There came a point in time somewhere after the turn of the century where we were told we didn't have to be there anymore, and even the nameplate was removed from the desk where the police chief and Chris Hovetter sat. So it was like, but here again, I think the bottom line is, take the time, instead of bringing it out at a public meeting, come to us first. We'll explain like we're going to explain a couple things today, and you'll have a better understanding.
Well, I appreciate you coming to us and helping us understand.
And I know Commissioner Grove knows how we operate. He comes to the meeting, just like his predecessors. They'd all come to me. They know what we're doing, what we're buying, how we're paying for it.
Well, so that makes me wonder, though, how did this thing get out about the ISO rating when that's not really what you're basing it on? You're basing it on the National Fire Protection Association rating. So how did the ISO rating thing come out? Because that's what we were basing our...
Well, some insurance companies, I know mine, I got Erie, they take it in consideration.
They still take it in consideration, yes.
But I think it's a combination of the ISO and the NFPA.
Right.
And
And they're not
probably
the
got it
same.
bridged at some point.
And I guess my thinking is, all we did was ask, can you help us? If you's had all these questions, all it took was, I email Elizabeth all the time, but all you had to do was ask us to sit down with you. We could have gave you all this information. We didn't need to be called out in a public meeting as not being trustworthy or forthcoming. All we did was ask for help. I mean, to put it into perspective, the ladder truck we have now, our budget was $126,000. Ladder truck was $546,000. Our budget now is $332,000. And the ladder truck, the quote's right here. We just got an update. They're updating every 30 days. Is up to $1.878 million. That is an offset of $1.3 million. That there is not a volunteer fire department in this county that could do that on their own. You know, we came back and we knew this was coming. The rest of them aren't so bad, but $2 million we just can't do it. We know that. We figured if we had to borrow $900,000, our payment would be $100,000 a year. Well, we can't lose $100,000 out of our budget. It's just not even feasible. So we're asking for help. There's no doubt about that. That's the quote if you want a copy of it. But it's 2 months old, so they've already redid it 2 more times that we haven't got yet. So you have anything else, Nina?
I did have something, I can't remember what it was, but go ahead.
All right, so then Donnie said that we're pressuring you to give us an answer so that we can get an audit that we should have had done 10 years ago. We weren't pressuring anybody, we were just asking for a ballpark so we knew if it was worth the while to get the audit, because they're gonna be expensive. So I'm not sure where the pressing came from. I guess my question is, why should we have had an audit 10 years ago?
I don't think it's a question of the audit 10 years ago so much, but I've been on council for 12 years, and we've received one financial report from you guys in 12 years. The charter requires that we get that every year, and we've asked for it before in the past, and I mean, until this past year, we had never seen it. So, and it's not any, probably none of your guys' fault sitting right there. I mean, we know you guys change over every couple of years, so, but, I mean, like I said, it's a two-way street. You know, we provide you with a lot of money every year, and, I mean, it's our job to do that, but it's also our job to make sure that the money is being spent correctly. You know, we have to budget our money every year for the city. You know, we just want to make sure that everything that we see is on the up and up. You know, and you know, by getting that budget every year is just a requirement that we need, and that's what that was in reference to.
Well, that's not an audit.
Right, that's not an audit.
On an audit.
Right, we asked for the audit this year.
You asked for it 10 years ago, you said, that was your statement.
We said we should have had one. Your comment was we should have had an audit 10 years ago.
Okay, but you might have, yeah, because what I'm telling you is we have not seen any financial records from the fire department in the 12 years that I've been on council.
Okay.
Until this year.
I can tell you that 3 years I was president, we were never asked for one, and if it was an oversight on my part because I didn't know it, which I didn't, I'll eat that.
That's the thing.
But nobody.
But you guys are.
Go ahead,
You guys are saying that we should come to your meetings. We should do this and that. I mean, we shouldn't have to ask for it. It's part of the charter. Part of the reason you guys get the money every year.
Okay, and you will. And we offered to give you 10 years worth of them. We told Elizabeth we'd give her as many as she wanted. Because we have them. It's not a big deal. The public safety commissioner sits in every one of our meetings. It was just a simple, hey guys, they didn't get your budget yet. Maybe it's an oversight. We took care of it. We don't care. We're an open book.
I understand that, but that's all my point was, is that we haven't seen any financial stuff in years.
So will the budget suffice?
That's all that's required.
Okay.
But if there's a question of our trustworthiness, that budget's not gonna tell you anything.
Let me tell you.
Just Just a guesstimation?
The audit would,
But
an audit would.
We're not getting an audit every year.
No,
Okay, then the budget every year will not tell you what he wants to
What
know.
do
But
you
I think-
suspect
but having an audit this year
for the
will
grant?
then confirm the, you know, what you've been telling us, so that, you know, helps in the trust sector.
But I thought the purpose of the audit was for the grant, the ARPA. Isn't that a
Yeah,
requirement?
it
Is it still a requirement?
It's not a requirement per the subrecipient rules, but it was something that the mayor and council put
So,
forth.
So
so
it's
let
not
me ask
part
this
of the grant.
question. At one time, was it a requirement?
Yes.
So
Until,
now it's
like,
not.
Until about, what, 3 weeks ago?
So now it's not. But now the city still wants it.
Yes.
So you want
And
it.
that's fine.
One or two? Because the government wanted two.
I think
Just
the
one
mayor
audit.
and council were agreeable to one
Yeah.
at the last
Yeah.
meeting.
And that's just because of our accountability
No,
to the
that's fine.
taxpayers.
We're fine with it,
That's
but,
fine. We don't,
I mean, it'll cut our expense in half if we only have to do one, so.
And I've been the treasurer for probably the last 8 years. And Donnie said you guys have asked for our budget. No one's ever asked me for a budget till this year. Now, I understand, according to the charter, that we're supposed to supply it, and we haven't. We'll take that. But for him to say that, and I'm the treasurer, it's never been asked. To me.
Okay.
And the document is prepared, typically it's done in January by the vice president. That's all written out and established on our end. The budget's being prepared at the end of the fiscal year, and the only reason it bleeds over into January, because we go into January to January fiscal year, is because we change positions. So if a new fire chief comes in, they have a little time to tweak what they think they need to get for that year. But it's typically, I don't think, gone.
And that's changed too, Joe.
Yeah.
Now the treasurer and the business manager and the president, the fire chief, we get together in November
Yeah.
to set the budget so that it's ready for the first or second meeting in January.
Yeah, so the longest it bleeds is
Right,
that second
but
meeting.
it's not the vice president that does it anymore, because
Okay.
he really didn't have it, he would just follow last year's budget. But
Now,
now,
it does a change after.
yeah, but now Gary and I and chief or whoever, we get together, we go through it. We know what we spent last year and what we're going to
Yeah.
maybe spend. So we do it, it's actually better now. So and it hardly ever changes, because we involve the new chief right before we present it to see if he wants to change anything. So, but it's prepared real early.
That's good to know.
So are you asking, you're familiar with compilation, review, and audit, the three financial? Do you want the actual audit?
Which is tight, yeah.
Because there's a difference in the cost, for one thing. And it's also a difference of the information. If you're looking to see where we spent every dime, that we didn't foolishly spend it, then you're gonna want an audit. And that's what me personally, in 52 years of holding every office, including treasurer and business manager, I take exception to that you're like watchdogging us to make sure that we spend according to what you think. And that's not right. We are a 501c3 corporation, private corporation. We're not a city department, we're not an agency. Right there in your own charter it says that. And it also says a net of 10% of the tax dollar, whether you're the mayor or you're on the council or whoever, goes to the fire department, period. It's in the charter. So I don't know what prompted this all of a sudden that you have to see such detail. And we're willing to provide it. We just like to know why. Because people like Dane and I, that's a little defamatory, slanderous,
Very
be
much,
called
very much so.
untrustworthy. And trust is, we go into people's homes, and I have other I've had jobs, and a bookkeeper at a church now. They hear that, they think, well, I wonder what he's up to out there. It's just, if you want it, we'll get it, but we want to know what prompted it.
Probably what prompted it was the disconnect that Joe talked about, that there seemed to be discrepancies, which weren't explained to us, until now.
Okay, so there were discrepancies. Then why was it brought to the public before it was brought to us?
That's what
It was in the paper. And it's also in a national fire magazine.
Yahoo News.
So that's pretty defamatory to me as treasurer and my family. And people were asking me what's going on at the fire department. Now they're putting us in the category of Claresville, McCool, that money was taken. And they're lumping us in with fire departments like that where, you know,
That's definitely blowing up anything that I don't think any of us
that was
said
your
anything
statement
like-
though.
I did say untrustworthy, which is
Yes, you
probably an
did.
overstatement. It's more like, well, the discrepancies made it seem questionable, which, maybe that's the same thing as untrustworthy, but, I mean, you can see where I was coming from.
No, I can't.
and that-
I'm sorry, I can't.
There was a discrepancy.
There is no discrepancies.
From what we were presented, there was a discrepancy. That was one, and the other one was the whole thing about the ISO rating. That seemed like things did not line up
That
between
had
what
nothing
was
to do with
said.
money and being untrustworthy though.
Given the information that we had, it certainly raised questions.
But to make a statement like that, and not a single person in here stood up and said, that's a little harsh of a statement to be put into the public about me, because I'm the treasurer.
I mean, we're totally shocked that somebody didn't stand up and say, wait a minute.
Yes, totally.
Let's get them in here and talk to them. We had to request this meeting to defend what you said about us. I mean, there is nobody in this county that has as many checks and balances as we do. We took a county audit at the end of the closing and all that.
That's all.
Go ahead, Gary.
If you got a couple minutes, since we're here anyway, in 2014, the county commissioners, because of all the trouble with McCool and all that wrongdoing that was going on, they contracted Turnbull, Hoover and Kale, a CPA firm in Cumberland, to go in and do an internal control financial analysis. And the scope of it is over a page long, dealing with segregation of duties, receipts of funds, financial reporting, training, software. They come back to the county commissioners in February of 32 recommendations that each fire company was told, you need to follow these. Of those 32, we were already doing 31. In fact, I think they used some of our practices. As far as expenses are concerned, treasurer and the financial secretary review them, make sure they're legit. They go to the meeting votes on them, then they're paid. Check requirements, 3 signatures. As business manager, I have no authority to sign checks or to any expense, 0. I'm sort of like just the bookkeeper. But it takes 3 signatures of the treasurer and 2 others, vice president, financial secretary, or fire chief. Internal controls. Each quarter, the trustees, 5 different individuals who have no signatory authority, audit the books of the treasurer and the financial secretary. Each year, we are required, by being a 501c3, to file an IRS 990. Familiar with that? Okay. It's filed with the IRS. Lists all our assets, liabilities, income, expenses. It's available for public review. We have a copy at the station if somebody wants to come over and look at it. And it'll list everything. Our treasurer is bonded for $3 million. The fire chief is. All the other officers $1 million each. And even the firefighters are bonded. Because you know how anything can happen. As I mentioned before, Commissioner Grove and his predecessors, they come to the meetings so they know this is going on. And we talk about apparatus. Each year in December, we take a look at our income and expenses. And if there's any excess, one of 3 things happens. One, it goes into the truck fund for apparatus. Special project, like this past year, we put money aside for a new roof and a ramp at Station 1. Both are in dire need. And the third would be equipment purchases, which we did in 2019 all this came across the meeting room floor, was approved by the general membership. So everything's being open. And every piece of equipment we've bought in the last 30 years, we've paid off early. We take 10-year loans on the ladder truck we have now, had it paid off in 5. The rescue truck, 10-year loan, we had it paid off in 3. Because of this money, and the money you don't see in our budget does not include, we have an annual fund drive. We have fundraisers, photo fundraisers we've had, donations. People just give us a donation, or most recently memorial donations for a deceased member. Never gets into the operating budget, goes straight into the truck fund, not touched. So that's how we operate. We are on board, and we're far beyond being untrustworthy. And anything is available for the public to look at. That's what I just told you, we would tell anybody else. We're not hiding anything.
To piggyback on what he's saying, I don't think that many places have the resources that we have on hand, like I was speaking about before. You can walk into Gary's office and ask for a vague request of, hey, this thing that I ordered on this day, I can't remember who from, 2 minutes, and he's got every piece of document laid out in front of you. I mean, it's more organized than I think most organizations I've worked with before. I mean, it's incredible work, and the entire financial team at the department keeps very tight, organized approach to the finances. So.
And even that, I called Gary yesterday at 2 o'clock, and Gary, I said, I want the cost of this, I want our budget for this, and I want our budget for that. And he's like, Jesus, Todd. I said, I'll help. He's like, you don't have to, it's in a folder. He throws me a folder and says, there you go. That's how I have the information today for the old ladder truck. That's how I have all that, because of him. You can have it all too. That's simple. It's just an email.
Enough comments. But that's how I lived when I worked in the bank for 38 years. You leave an audit trail, and because of the very same thing, if you walked in and wanted to know what you spent this money on, we can get that answer for you in 2 minutes. Nothing to hide.
And it's just an email or a phone call. We're not hard to get a hold of. I mean, we need you guys. We're not in any way, shape, or form trying to hide anything. We let the commissioner sit in every meeting. Every dollar we have, he hears. Every dollar we spend, he hears. Anything you want to know, he can give it back to you. But if you want it from us, we're just an email away. So, I guess we're on to the next one. Based on some of the information I see in this letter, I mean, they did give us the budget this year, but that's the first time I've seen the budget since I've been on council. What letter? I guess we're confused about the letter.
It's the one I gave
The
you.
one you gave me? Okay. Elizabeth took care of that one. Next, a brand new truck, and talking to several people, is it a want or a need? I think we pretty well touched on that too, because we're already treating the frame every year to try to get through till the new one gets here.
I believe Joe has some
You want some more on that?
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about ISO, we talked about FPA, and I think that was pretty well covered. Just to put into context, the design process that we are following for the ladder truck is the same as what we followed for the engine 161 that we put in service a few years ago. I highly doubt that if I asked, what exactly we were purchasing, that there would be a good consensus from your side of the table of what we're trying to accomplish. It's going to be an aerial truck, a truck that we call it, but it's an aerial device. 4 ISO and 4 NFPA, these are both recommended things for the type of target houses that we have here, 4-story buildings, the university, the high density residential populations. That vehicle is what composes the truck company. 3 jobs that they basically have. Gaining access to a building, so say you lock your doors at night before you go to sleep and something happens, they're the ones that are going to get you in. Primary and secondary searches, so they're the people that are going in, searching for you and rescuing you if you needed to be rescued out of your house. They're the ones coming for you to get you. And then the third job is supporting the engine company. They're going to be finding the fire, trying to find extension, keep fires from getting bigger, minimizing damage, and ventilating to get smoke and hazardous gases out of the environment. As I said in the opening remarks, unfortunately Frostburg has had numerous fatalities since I've been involved in the fire service. This truck company's job is to give those people the best chance. And if we don't have the best equipment to do that job, we're not going to be able to do it. We're already up against the 8 ball because we're a volunteer department and we can't guarantee staffing at any hour of the day, and we have what we have available. But getting us the best equipment so we can position correctly, we have the right ground ladders, we have the right equipment coming off the rigs. These are all things that go into our design process. And to put it into context, for the engine alone, which we just put in service a few years ago, if you go to the back of that thing right now as it sits on Station 1 up the street, you'll notice in the back there's a lot of hose stacked up. Some of it's supply hose that gives us water to the fire, but the other are attack hose. And a lot of people from the community, even if you ask them when they walk around them, they say, man, there's a lot of hose on here, you really need it. I can tell you that we do, and I can tell you why we know this. Years ago when we were in the design process for 161, Chief Doug Hansen and I went to the Gunner Hotel and measured out the exact path of travel for a hose line to get to the furthest occupiable space in that place. And we came up with 400 feet. So when you walk to the back of 161, you will find two 2-inch smoothbore nozzles with line lengths of 400 and 350 feet. Put there, from the second we started designing the engine, they were written into our spec that we would have those lines available in the back specifically for that target hazard. There are a few other buildings that also benefit from that protection, but that's the level of detail that we put into our equipment when we spec it out. We don't just go buy, and there are departments that get away with it, and that works fine for them. They can go buy a demo unit right off the street with a 150 or 200 foot line being their longest and make it work. But we don't operate that way, and we train with that 400 foot line frequently. So if there ever is a fire in the Gunter or Allen Hall or above the Dante's building, we're equipped and trained to be able to get a hose line in position to put that fire out. That's the level of detail, and that's what we're putting into the ladder truck. So it's been suggested by people on the council and people in the community that, well, why don't you go buy a used fire truck? I see these ads on Facebook for used equipment. Those pieces of equipment are not specified to work with the challenges we have. It is fairly unique to have a turn-of-the-century downtown, high-rise dormitories, and college campus across, on the other side of our first new area. We're talking about a transition of building construction going from what was block dorms to now a wood frame dorm that has limited access for that aerial device anyways. So designing a piece to be able to meet those challenges is critical if we ever have to use them. And I think, again, it gets back to the fact that there is a disconnect in knowledge. And I think that if our side of the table, we're happy to educate on what we're building and why we need this. By no means do I think that any part of this is a want. We don't build parade pieces. Everything that was put into the last piece of equipment that we purchased was there for a purpose, and that's going to be consistent with the ladder truck. It's pretty much the same design team working on that project, and we have a pretty good understanding of the tactics that need to go into the design process for the ladder truck. So if there's any questions on that, I would urge anybody on this board or anybody in the community to reach out to someone from the fire department, and we can educate on what it is we're trying to accomplish and what we need on that ladder truck to accomplish those goals. Because that's how we operate. That's how we're going to build this truck spec out.
Donnie, we touched on ISO. It says here I have a person who lives in a hotel that there was a national fire person for years and said that the rating on a lot of these trucks is not based on the years, it's based on the use and stuff. I think we've already touched on that. The NFPA has way more to do with the truck recommendations. The ISO affects your insurance and everybody else's insurance with certain insurance companies. Do you have any more questions on that?
No, I'm good on what you gave us on that.
Do you guys have anything?
Some addition to the ISO, it isn't just the fire department. When they come in and do their review every 5 years, they check the city water supply, the hydrants. So we're all in this together, so every one of us has to be part of that examination.
So going to pick up a
Yeah,
couple.
the only question I had, like, the only reason the ISO thing was brought up is because we were told, I don't know how many meetings ago, that everybody's insurance was going up because the truck's ISO rating was whatever. And that's all my concern was. I just now got an explanation of it. I mean, I'm fine with what you guys are saying.
Good.
Yeah, and a couple other NFPA things that we missed when we talked about this earlier. Some of the other recommendations, again, NFPA, they produce recommendations. They're not standards that that we're legally held to, but they're kind of the best practices of the fire industry. So we've recently, one of the reasons we have to look for other forms of funding, NFPA also suggests that 15 years is the max lifespan on SCBA. We replaced those because they were aging out, so we already had failures, so we had to replace the token of several hundred thousand.
Almost 200.
190.
Yeah, 190. So 190 that we had to spend to replace the SCBAs because we were they're the air packs we wear on our backs. So if a failure on an SCBA has a consequence of potentially being fatal for the firefighter if it's in a burning building when it would fail. So we replaced those way before the edge of failure. NFPA recommends 15. We were already starting to have some issues with them, so we elected to replace them before that date and try to sell the ones that were working. But unfortunately, we're not able to sell them. I mean, same point goes up with when trying to sell a used piece of fire apparatus. You try to sell any used piece of equipment, and FBA is saying that it should be replaced, the price goes way down. It's more than just saying, hey, I want to trade my car and it's out of warranty. Well, I can still figure it out. This is a little beyond that. We're now, whoever buys that is taking on the legal responsibility of, well, you bought a vehicle that was, or a piece of equipment that was almost out of compliance with NFPA, and then something happened, well, that's on them. So it's tough to sell stuff that's at that expiration date, which is why, one of the reasons why a study that we did a few years ago, and some of that information was presented to the city. The best replacement plan for just an engine is like 12 years, 80,000 mile top out, 15 miles for a ladder truck, or sorry, 15 years and 75,000 miles for a ladder truck, which would give you the best return if it was sold because there's still a lifespan on it. So replacing the vehicles earlier in their lifespan allows you to get more money back from them to put towards the next expense, but unfortunately we're not really in great positions to be doing that because we've had some aging vehicles that we've had to replace. So just to give context on NFPA and just how it relates to our budget and how we can and cannot sell things. I think the ladder truck is probably, by the time it gets replaced, I don't know that we've really looked at an estimate recently of what we could sell it for, but the last time we looked at the engine, it was, I think the engine we just replaced, they were talking like, you might get a couple thousand out of it. So.
Good. Dawn. Everybody wants a new truck, but I think we need a little bit more information from them. So, I mean, we don't want a new truck, we need a new truck. We need a new command unit. The floorboards are gone. We had it at Langley's because the parking brake was, well, it's because the bracket, there was no floorboard to hold the bracket no more. We don't typically buy because we want. We buy because we need. And like I told Elizabeth, everything in the fire service has a shelf life, according to NFPA. None of us sitting here are going to send anybody in a burning building if they're not NFPA compliant and have them die, because I'm not going to do it. I mean, so we abide by NFPA standards. That's how we operate. Joe, you got anything on that?
No, I think we covered that.
Dave? Garrett? Lost my place. Oh, it seems like their need is more along the lines of personnel than equipment, but that's not something we can provide. So, I agree, personnel is an issue, but there's a workforce shortage in this entire country. You can't get a kid to go to McDonald's and flip hamburgers for 15 bucks. Now, we want them to take thousands of hours of training, give up every Tuesday night, get out of bed all hours of the night, and they're going to do it for free. It's not hard to see why volunteerism is dying. It's not just us. It's nationwide. You pick up any fire magazine, and it's all about recruitment and retention. wants to do it anymore. I mean, who wants to volunteer to leave work? I mean, nobody wants to do it anymore. And that's why when you look around this room, other than him, we're all old and we're still doing it. So I don't know if there's anything else any questions you have about that, but it's not our fault, but it's a true. There's fire departments paying drivers and officers everywhere. The ambulance, now all paid. I mean, it's just a volunteer thing. It's people. It's not even volunteer. It's people. They don't want to work and collect a paycheck. They ain't gonna volunteer.
And we've had dialogue in the past about ways we can try to recruit more people, and then they just kind of, I don't know, just kind of died out. I think that's a whole other topic that we could spend an entire another, however long we've been here times two. So I think that there's probably things we could do to help that fight the city could provide, or we could team up to do. We've talked about things in the past like incentives and flyers and getting publications out to educate people. There's a lot of people that live in this town that think we're totally career paid. They don't realize there's an opportunity to volunteer.
We love to help out with, anything that we can do to help with the recruitment, sure, yeah.
So unfortunately, we're always like, it's equipment. There's only so much each of us can do. And right now, obviously, we're hot on funding for a ladder truck. So everything else sort of gets pushed aside, and maybe that's bad, but there's only so many hours in a day when you work 60 or 70 at a job.
Although a very easy thing that would be able to be done quickly is if you wanted to put together like a third of a sheet, like little brochure we could just Xerox off here to include in the water bill.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Exactly.
We've talked about that in the past. That would be great.
We can do that.
Can I have one more thing?
Go ahead, here.
I don't know if you're all aware, we currently have 11, we have about 25, 30 active members, maybe not that many, 25. 11 of those don't live in the city limits. They're doing it for nothing. They get nothing, there's no incentive. President, treasurer, they both live outside the city, they could just say the heck with it. But they don't, because we're all dedicated to what we do, and plus we ain't got nothing else to do.
There, you just shot yourself in the foot there, didn't you?
Not everybody's retired like that.
Right.
Retired people, I know.
Well, if I can
Anything else, Gary?
jump in on
Go ahead.
retention and the whole bit, and believe me, you're all aware of it, talking how many friends I know that are in fire service, everybody is doing this battle. I guess if nothing else that we can try to work towards, and so definitely sooner than later. And when Liz said about it, we're happy to put something in the water bill, do whatever, put something on our website, whatever we can do that. Really would like to see, because we were talking about this at lunch day, that, where are we going to be 10 years from now? You're going to have more trucks, you're going to have people to ride in them.
Yep.
That's my major concern.
And I mean, we've lowered our age. We went to 16 now. We got one. It's like, and we have in our budget, we have recruitment and retention in there to try. But right now, we're all sidetracked on a ladder truck. It's just like, there's only so much that, and
we
you're looking
understand.
at
Right.
pretty much the guys that handle this part of it. We're all sitting here tonight.
Yeah.
So, dealing with this kind of stuff, and obviously the funding, I mean, honest to God, if we don't get funding, we're not buying a ladder truck. It's that simple. We just physically can't do a $150,000 a year payment with what we have. I mean, so obviously our full attention, been communicating with Liz and you, and trying to get through this as a team is our goal. It really is. And
You mentioned 10 years from now, probably gonna be paid.
Well, I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon. The handwriting's on the wall. So this is just one battle. And this shouldn't be a battle. I shouldn't even use that, because that's what's really worrying me. And where's that stopgap coming
Concerns
from?
us too.
Yeah, because it's not gonna be the city of Frostburg, you know that. I mean, we may be a
It's in your
piece.
charter to make
No,
sure
no,
there's firefighting.
I understand that, but there may be a
people
piece
are
of it.
protected.
right,
Good piece to protect it,
Yep.
but that charter's got a few years on it.
yeah.
It's still there right now, and it's
Right.
good. So I'm just,
But I'm
Unless
trying
it
to be a
changes.
realist too, Dan, you know that.
Yeah.
I know, but-
And
There's no way to pay a fire department.
I know, yeah, for say years, city can't afford it, the county can't afford it.
I mean, I know how hard it is for you to buy the equipment you need. I mean, your equipment's cheap compared to what we got by. I mean, literally, we've spent $1 million in the last 3 years without any help.
Oh my.
With the, well, that's not true. We had the penny for 3 years, so that helped with the engine. But an engine and air packs was $1 million, and that's not counting the gear and stuff we buy every year.
Every year.
That's $1 million, and now we're trying to fork out 2 more.
Right.
7 years from that, squad, and that engine's still sitting down there, and it's like, it's just sitting down there. It ain't even, it's not even on our radar at this time because we don't know how we're gonna do all this.
And standards are even pushing it more expensive, you know, now.
And
Used to
then-
be you bought one set of gear for somebody and it was, you know, $5-6 grand to outfit a firefighter, put them in service. Now we should be giving people 2 sets so that if they run a fire, especially with low volunteer, you know, the low amount of people we have, you run a fire and immediately your gear gets stripped out because of the carcinogens and trying to reduce that cancer profile.
Right.
So we're immediately taking that and putting it into a decon washer. Well, if you only have 1 set of gear,
Can't do that.
you're out of service. So we lose someone for the next 12 hours. So we really need to get to the point where we have 2 sets of gear, which now that price is going up to like $9,000 per firefighter to keep them in service. It's an expensive game.
And NFPA's driving all that. NFPA drives the price of fire trucks because they just keep wanting more and more safety. So they just keep driving the price of them up. Now, obviously, the economy is killing us now, but that's what drove them up from the 200 and some thousand for the 95 to the 600,000 for the one we just bought. It's just that. So, Kevin said if we could work with us and cut back on some things that weren't necessary, they could probably get that truck down because I think they gave an estimate of 1.7. I've already said it's already went up to 1.87 now, so, and it's gonna keep climbing. So, that part is, and the old ladder truck's gonna be 2 years from now, it'll be 21 years old. It's not gonna bring any money. If you get 100,000, you'd be very lucky. I mean, it was 540 when it was new. If you're lucky, you get 100. I mean, they just, because it's done. The frame's done, I mean, it's just done. Anybody else wanna say anything about that? Joe?
Well,
Dane?
one thing I'd like to say is, like Kevin said, maybe we could cut back on some things that weren't necessary. Well, we don't put anything on any of our equipment that is what you'd say is not necessary. Everything we put on it, we spec it out because we know it's necessary. We don't just do any frills, you know, and when you're speccing a ladder truck, you know, you got to spec it just right, like Joe said. So there's nothing that we can say, well, we'll just take the bottom line. You can't do that here because it has to be spec'd for the hills. You know, you got to spec it for how close the roads are in the city. There's just so many things. So to cut back on anything, well, you can't cut back. You got to build that into when you're building it. And it's nothing that is just wanted to put in there. It's what we would need for this city.
And probably the one thing everybody sees is shiny aluminum wheels. They absolutely don't want steel wheels on because of the heat. So by having aluminum wheels, you're not torching your brakes, and now they've went to disc brakes that you don't want to replace at $24,000 a set. So
And that's
the
for the
aluminum wheels are a
manufacturing.
need, not a.
That's what they say, manufacturing.
That's a manufacturer recommendation
Yeah.
because the steel wheels get so hot and they just torch the brakes. So that's the reason you're seeing everybody with aluminum wheels and then more painted wheels. Because we were going to do painted wheels on the engine, and they shot us down. The manufacturer didn't. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing that you would consider luxury items, we put like the automatic lubrication devices on there, which is a luxury for, you know, if you go to a city department that has a dedicated maintenance shop, but
Yeah.
you know, with us not having that, we don't have the man hours to provide to do this scheduled lubrication, so naturally it's going to degrade faster. Now we're going to be replacing it closer to 10 years than 20. So things like that we've added on, if they are a luxury item to some, are a need here because we don't have the resources to be able to do it any other way. I mean, I think that's only like a $2,000 or $3,000 option, and it extends the life of your chassis a lot. So there are very few things that are, I don't think anything that could really be reduced to save money at the estimate that we have there.
And it's just an estimate, obviously, we haven't built it yet.
No.
That's the base price of where we're going. Next on the thing, Donnie, you said, if they got that money in their truck fund, why didn't it show up on their information they've given us? It's not in our budget, our operating budget doesn't include the truck fund.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, you get that part, you're good there?
I'm good. This has been very helpful.
just said that he didn't know if it was on budget or not. Obviously, it's not. Our operating budget's just guaranteed income.
So that doesn't include like the money that you got donated, because that goes into the truck
That goes
fund.
straight, any money that comes in that way goes straight into the truck fund, and the truck fund is solely for that.
That goes,
It's
but
not
that,
our truck fund's not a slush fund.
but the truck fund does show up in like your year-end report.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it shows up in our meeting. All of our accounts show up he sees them every meeting. So we have them every meeting. Dane gives us our bank accounts every meeting.
And they're also on the 990 IRS report.
So, but yes, all that is there. The $15,000 we already covered, right, Donnie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Nina said it was incomplete. We've taken care of that. Which leads me to think we should get an outside auditor because we can't trust them. I think we've covered that.
Have we covered that enough?
Oh,
I mean,
that's you.
I am deeply, deeply mad about that statement. That was so defamatory to us. That's almost slanderous. Well, it is slanderous. And it shouldn't have been said to the public. That was wrong.
I apologize.
Could you speak up a little bit?
I apologize for
Thank
that
you.
statement.
Thank you.
Because that ultimately is these guys. These are our finance
Yeah, and
guys.
like Gary said, I've been in the fire department since 1978. My dad joined the fire department in 1957, and he just passed, and he's been in there almost 65 years. And we have been committed to this community, and then for that to be said, that is just wrong.
Gary?
I'm done.
I do want to
You
say,
good, Dave?
we need you, and I recognize that, and I think it was really remiss of me not to mention it during that meeting, because the fire department is an integral part of this city, and I really appreciate what you do. And I appreciate how hard the work is, and how you put your lives on the line, so thank you for doing that.
Everybody good? Donnie, the next one just said that we asked for you to pay for the audit, which we never did. We know we're paying for the audit, just to clarify
I
that.
don't remember. Well, I mean, if I said that, I didn't mean that.
Alright,
No,
But let's talk about that audit again. So the federal government's not asking for an audit. We just got money from the state that didn't ask for an audit. We've got federal grants before that never asked for an audit. But now our city wants an audit? Do you really still want an audit?
Should we discuss it?
Should you discuss it? You can discuss it
Yourself,
without us
not
if you
yourself.
want.
I mean-
We'll do it.
I mean,
But I'm
since
just
you guys
saying,
have came
you know-
here, I feel a lot more comfortable about it. You know, I think if this would have happened when, the money was first being asked for, we wouldn't have been in this situation. I
It
think,
could have happened.
I understand, and I do, and I think, there's definitely a lack of communication here, that's for sure. But, with everything you
think
guys have
I-
put out today,
I agree
I
with you
definitely
guys,
feel comfortable with it, absolutely.
Donnie, go ahead.
I kind of agree with you guys. I mean, the reason we were asking for the audit is that it's been addressed. We hadn't seen the financial stuff in 10, 12 years, whatever it's been. But I mean, I think we've got the answers we wanted here, and I'm comfortable without an audit.
And I would just suggest you have the internal audits, your other statements, if you could just provide that to the mayor and council.
Yes,
So that
absolutely.
there's the transparency to the
How
public.
many years worth?
That's up to
Last three?
We can provide you with QuickBook reports showing the expenses.
you. Okay, yeah, whatever you,
Three years.
I didn't hear you, Elizabeth. What did you ask for?
just your
Internal audit.
the internal
Okay.
audit that you do, and
Okay.
any other financial statements that you already prepare.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
It would actually be
Yeah,
helpful.
that would satisfy me for sure.
Yeah, if you go back prior to COVID, that would be helpful. I think going forward, something, if anything else comes down the road, that we would already have it. Okay.
We've touched on the auditor, why everybody wants better accounting. I just think you want more information from us. glasses, I can't see anymore. They wanted us to give them at least a certain amount of money before they will commit to actually paying for an auditor. But I can't remember what that is. We never asked for a certain amount before. We asked for what you thought you would give us. We asked Kevin, we've asked Elizabeth, just give us a ballpark. We're not gonna spend 50 to get 60. That's just where we were with it.
Right.
That's all we were asking for with that.
Now we're not gonna
Well,
have,
you know, at the last work session, I recommended $500,000.
Right.
Yeah, we had that.
We got all that, so. And they've already emailed us and told us that, and we're already moving forward with getting quotes for audits, so. We were already on that as far as getting our audits, not knowing we wouldn't have to, but we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Kevin said certainly the fire truck is worth some pretty good money. I've covered that. They just aren't because they're out of their life cycle. We will sell the truck, and whatever we get for the truck will go back in the truck fund towards the next one probably, or go towards this one, however we decide to do it, but, and Nina said we need younger blood. That's a fact. We won't get no argument out of any of us, because none of us, we're all tired. So,
applications are available to do your station.
we would, and we will get a brochure together to go in the water bill, for sure. Joe, anything else?
The only thing that I had under the 500,000 part is that one of the discussions we had recently, we talking about that command unit. We did pull the trigger on replacing that because the floorboards are falling apart and it's no longer it's borderline even safe to operate. So that should be delivered next year.
We're hoping.
We're hoping.
So
Can't get an answer. It's on order.
So yeah, it's on order. So that does eat up some of the money that was available that would have helped us reach that goal, but that was something that needed replaced. So eyeballing some hopeful future funding, that's the reason that decision was made. So.
And ultimately, of course, we hope to get closer to 7 than 5 with the price increases.
I mean, I think it's a lot easier decision to make now that, you know, I mean, I appreciate you guys coming in.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even have known these questions to ask, to be honest with you.
Well,
We're always available.
we're always available, and I just wish they would have come out before they went to the public.
Sure.
Because now, somebody, I don't know who, should make retractions in the paper and to that National Fire magazine, because that makes us look bad, real
The
bad.
missing money was horrible.
Oh,
because
that's terrible.
We're just getting ready to send out another mail out to the businesses towards the truck.
Individuals, too.
And individuals.
And now we're gonna send that out there, and it's out there that in the summertime news that we lost $15,000 and we're not trustworthy. It was just horrible right now when we're asking for money from everybody. Cause we're not proud, we're begging. We don't lie, we're begging. So,
All right, folks.
I appreciate your guys' time. I know that took a long time.
I just have one question out of curiosity. What happens to all the fire trucks that can't be sold? What happens to them?
Age, NFPA
like,
causes it.
I mean, physically, like, do they just go to the scrapyard
They
then,
go to
or
Bone
do they
Yard
get
or something like
repurposed in something
Yeah,
else?
you can ride around here and see quite a few of them. There's one down at Price Farm, there's one down at Twiggs Junkyard.
Some do enter, you know, like where I work, all the ones that hit 10 to 15 years go into reserve fleet, and that's where they spend the next 10 years. Because NFPA does say that you can use a reserve piece beyond that lifespan, that as long as it keeps up with its testing, but they recommend it's no longer frontline. So some places, and I know there are some reserve apparatus that float around the county that several departments use. Others get donated, you know, when Tennessee got hit with the floods or West Virginia got hit with the floods, some equipment does get donated there because the reality is you can write off the taxes more than you can get a buyer to pay. So sometimes that write-off is helpful for some of these organizations. So
And then when those companies, like, when they're in that kind of need, they're not worried about NFPA. They're just trying to restaff and
Sure.
re-equip.
Yeah.
And they'll take whatever you can give them.
we've kept our stuff so long that
Because we,
it's purchased by
Yeah.
historians. Seriously. An antique. Say it was purchased by a historian. You know, it's kept as an antique. So.
But one more thing on the new ladder truck, I almost forgot. There is a full prepay option that saves us $80,000. So if we can come up with the money and prepay, it's almost $100,000 saved. So obviously that's our goal. Which that can be back. We can get it all ahead of time, but
When you guys get the next estimate, you said it's been 2 months yet.
this one's 2 months
2
old.
months old. Okay.
So
So you're just waiting for.
well,
we probably asked for this one just to see where it was until we sit down and actually start.
yeah,
Okay.
spec out. You won't know an actual
We won't
price
really
till
know
you
the
have
true number.
Inspect and
This
give
was
it to them,
informational
you know.
purposes for you guys to see how far it went up already. We're gonna be at $2 million. There's just no doubt that it's gonna hit the $2 million mark. And
If you finance the balance, how long of a period would that be
10
for?
years, typically 10 years.
Typically, we go 10.
We try to do it in 10. That's always been our goal. But
And the reason we do
Depends on how
that
much
is
we have to
the
finance.
affordability of the payment. And most of the previous apparatus was interest quarterly and then a lump payment in principal.
At the end of the
However, during the course of the year, when we review our quarterly position, if there's money available,
sock it to
we
it.
prepay it with the interest, of course, to knock the interest out.
Can you remind, what's in the truck fund now?
I can tell you as a,
160 as
With interest
let's
rates
see here,
being
I think it was
around
160. Where's that paper at? I've got
We
that.
used to in the state of Maryland, there was a law that said,
too many papers. Man.
Yeah, I know. It's right here.
the last one was 4.35.
It's 160, but where's it at?
I know you got it.
I know, because I have it in my hand a little bit ago.
Yeah, I wonder if Somerset Trust really did the work on that. They seem to be very,
Could have sworn. Oh, no, here it is. Yeah, I stuck it in
I
there.
can, if you don't mind, I'll talk to them.
It is. Our truck fund right now
Just
is
out of curiosity.
$111,236.05. That was August 23rd. So 160, where Kevin said, I'm not sure where that came from.
I thought I heard that at the meeting, that it was close to 160, 150.
111.
Is it because is it less
Now
because
the-
of what you just
No.
have to spend?
Pardon me?
We don't.
I was wondering if it was less because of
We
what
don't
you
spend
just had
money
to
out of the truck fund.
We don't spend money out of that fund.
That's truly.
That's an account that just stays there.
It takes almost an act of Congress to spend that money.
Kevin, that number might have been the debt on the station.
I was gonna say, well, that could have been the
Could-
debt, the
yeah,
debt on
okay.
the mortgage debt that we have, plus the
Is it
SCBA.
in around that? Okay,
Yeah, it's closer to that.
yeah.
Probably the last meeting you were at, that probably was
we already had
160.
the lease payment
Because we just made
and everything
everything.
budgeted this year.
See, that's the
so
other thing, we got
that money's in there.
two mortgages,
It's still in our
or one mortgage is 147, and the
It's listed
SCBA
in
loan
there.
is 57.
But we were figuring we're gonna be leasing,
So, you know, we got debt
We had
too,
to
we
lay
don't
back.
just have all money, we have debt.
which got us really close. So,
How long,
Alright.
how long you been on the station?
I'm sorry,
How many years are you figure left on the station?
we moved there in 12.
12, we
Right,
moved
We
it.
got
12.
still 10 more years because we took out for 20.
That's
Okay,
20.
so that's a 20-year note.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
the other one's was a 5-year,
It's 5.
so we got about 2 years to go.
Yeah.
2.5.
But like that SCBA loan, when we get to the end of the year, we might look at that and say, let's just pay that off,
Right.
get rid of that. Because if we have enough money, we'd like to pay some things off so we can move on to something else.
Sure.
But when there's trucks in the mix, then that
Yeah, that always,
takes away from
yeah,
that.
it does.
And soaring steel.
But that is how we pay everything off early. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the year, if we didn't spend something in our budget, all that money goes to pay off the apparatus. That's how we.
Yeah.
That's how they get paid off so early. We take every penny we have because
No,
when one's done, it's time. I mean, it's time for another one. When the squad was done, it was time for 2,
yeah.
and that's when we talked to you.
But like
so.
last year, we didn't put the extra money in the truck fund because we needed a new roof on the station.
Who'd have thought that would go up 30 grand?
That's $80,000. $80,000 for a new roof, which is supposed to start this month. I
So
hope.
I think Gary, you done?
Yes, sir.
Dane,
I'm finished.
Joe, we're done. Anything on
You guys
your
need
guys'
an
end?
auxiliary to raise funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't say that word.
If there's anything else
So
we need
the-
on our end besides putting stuff.
The 500,000 you guys already received, have you guys
We have
received?
not
You
received
have
it.
not received that yet?
We
Okay.
have paperwork that we're working on to fill out
Okay.
to get that.
Yeah.
That's where. So
Or that's going right into the truck fund? Is that how?
Yeah,
that's-
that'll go right to the
okay.
truck fund, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Conducts that.
Right.
Yeah, that would not go into general operating
And then
Sure.
you get through the
account, it'll go
statistics.
right to the truck fund.
Historically,
It
we
will not be spent on
And
anything.
you say you're probably gonna be close to 2 million by the time?
I would say just because this one
It
went
looks
from
like
1.6 to
it.
1.8.
Okay.
It looks
I mean, it's almost 1.9, 1.878,924, so it's really 1.879, so you're all but at 2 million. And that's no equipment, that's just the rig,
Yeah,
that's just the rig.
the rig with one ladder,
Yeah.
the ladder,
So, that's just the rig.
yeah.
You want it?
now, is Donnie still there?
No, I'm good. Yeah, sorry, I've been muting you so you didn't hear all my background noise. No, I appreciate it, guys, and I apologize I couldn't be there in person.
I think some of that money ends
And,
up being higher than that, but,
yeah, we
I mean,
look forward to working with you guys to get this thing taken care of.
consider
Okay.
the surrounding community.
Thanks for coming out.
All right, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
all
you,
the
guys.
information.
Yep.
So, thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Thanks, man.
Sorry.
walk up to you.
We're too old for that.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the information.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, there, boss.
Okay, they're getting fairly close because they're getting their gas.
I'm just laying back here for keep that closed. I just want to be able to.
They're getting the gas and electric disconnected in the next couple of weeks, so I've reached out to them. I just saw her and so today. Thanks, Gary. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sure you can stop and talk to him.
All right, thanks.
Hey, you can jump in whenever you're ready.
Do you want to be in charge of this and I'll do it tonight and we'll see it. Just put on the links. I need to be able to maintain eye contact with them. Does anyone need a break?
No, I'm okay.
I took mine. I couldn't wait.
Go quick, Hayden.
Okay. Can I start? Sorry.
Go for it.
So, at the special work session 2 weeks ago about the ARPA projects, there are several things that you prioritized for approval this month. Some of these have already been approved by resolution for an ARPA expense, but because they exceed $25,000, they will need a separate resolution with your approval, just like any normal expense in accordance with our procurement policy. So some are both, some are just a resolution to actually approve moving forward with it. So there'll be a lot more resolutions on the agenda because these will be separate approvals of awarding contracts to different contractors and consultants. Okay, go for it. Thanks.
Okay. The first one is the water treatment plant upgrade proposal from Microtech. Microtech's the company that we have used for all of our technological related projects for water and sewer. This project is the one we've spoken about it many times. Microtech has finally gotten the proposal ready for me. It's actually a lot cheaper than we thought. We were thinking it'd be around $500,000. It's actually coming in at around $260,000.
Oh, nice.
It basically covers all of the software in the water treatment plant and all of the integrated hardware. So all of the hardware that depends and has to communicate with the software.
Cool.
So this project will bring the water treatment plant completely up to speed and hopefully keep us that way for the next 15 to 20 years. It would definitely be, this would be my project to 100% push for. I think it's very important.
And in terms of, they come highly recommended
Yes.
by MES.
Yes.
So with that, like, we know that all of the industry best practices,
So including security.
yes.
Yeah, for sure. And they, like I said, they've worked with us at the water treatment plant since 2010, 2012. I don't know the exact date off my head, but they have a substantial resume with us. So I would definitely make a push for this project.
Okay.
Can you move that away from me? I'm getting this ringing from while he's talking. I don't know what it is.
It's part of the inverter. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to elaborate.
That sounds good.
The second one, the salt dome design proposal from BB&A. It's not actually going to be a dome. We just keep calling it salt dome because we have a dome at this point. This proposal is strictly for the design and engineering costs associated because it's going to be a big enough building that it'll need to be designed from someone outside of myself. So this is BB&A's proposal for doing the design, putting together all the contractual documents and all of the drawings. It's $16,000, which is about ballpark what I expected it to be. So I would recommend going forward with this so that BB&A can start design. Once they're done design, we should hopefully be able to put this project out to bid in the springtime and then have it built by midsummer so we can start filling it with salt for next winter.
How big is it gonna be?
Square footage wise, 40 by 40 by 40, so 1,600 square feet.
And it's going to be 2 bays.
Yes,
Yeah.
one for grit and one for salt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much going to take up that whole section where the old one is. It's pretty much going to go right against
Yep.
the garage all the way over
Yep.
to the tree line, I
Yep.
guess.
There will be no property acquisition, no special permitting.
Okay.
We're basically just taking our old salt dome, getting rid of it, putting new structure on top.
Interesting tidbit about the salt dome is that we bought it used.
Can you get one of these used?
I intend to sell it.
Did you treat it?
Capacity wise, just from my knowledge, what would you say?
I have the numbers. It should fit all of the salt and all of the grit we need for an entire winter.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
So we don't have to keep having to get multiple
Correct.
loads.
We buy it once.
Yeah.
We buy it once at a bulk order, get a bulk discount, and then we're done.
And it's going to work better for the equipment we have too, you know, without tearing the roof off of the old one.
With some of our younger operators.
Yeah.
Learning to drive.
Say that they're all older than me. If there are any other questions, I'd be
That's good. Perfect.
cool. Water department roof bid. So this was the project we bid, or we advertised approximately a month ago. Got bids. Got 2 bids. The low bid was Height Roofing. It came in at $45,000, slightly more than we expected, but whenever we initially proposed this project, it was almost a year ago, so price obviously has gone up. But $45,000 is definitely ballpark what we expected to pay. There's a write-up there of what they propose to do, and it covers everything I would want to see. So it would be my recommendation to accept this bid and cut them loose so that we can get them on a schedule.
Yeah, good.
The utility rates study, the responses are due tomorrow. I know we have received 2 bids to date. I have no idea what it's going to cost. I'm guesstimating between 75 and 150 just because of the evaluation of existing financials, past financials, understanding the future financials, understanding input costs, the costs that we get from on the water side, trying to predict the sewer costs on Cumberland. There's just so many complexities with that. I just don't have a good sense, but I think we're going to receive 3 proposals, which will be good. So I hope to be able to review those with Hayden and Elaine and provide a recommendation for you next Thursday to approve.
And last, we have the recreation maintenance storage building. The recreation department is requesting funding for the construction of a 28 by 40 metal storage building to house the recreation vehicles and maintenance equipment, and that will be constructed, if approved, by the city employees.
And where's this one going to go?
Over by the pool next to the existing.
Okay.
Kind of where that heap of stuff is.
Gotcha.
Trailers.
And it'll be about 24,000. So
Okay.
it'll just be 3 quotes.
Okay.
So yeah, that needs an ARPA approval, but not a contract approval.
Yeah. So it's just for material.
Yes.
The last one, I think we talked about the other week, and it's only like $1,000, so staff's just gonna recommend removing that from the ARPA approval because we can fund that internally.
Okay.
Or with our regular budgeted funds. Is that right, Lydia?
He didn't come back with a number, so at least for this month, we'll be removing it, yes.
Okay. Alright. This will be ARPA funded, but Hayden's kind of wants to pitch a idea to you before we get to the approval stage.
So we've discussed doing a mapping project with an engineering group, probably maybe BB&A, maybe someone else. And we've also discussed doing this smoke testing program. I met with RK&K. They're a design company, an engineering company out of Kaiser, just for the sake of the smoke testing program. While meeting with them, we were going back and forth with a lot of stuff, and they said, to do the smoke testing, we would map your sewer lines. We could provide you with sewer mapping, and while we were in there, it would be a lot cheaper for us to also do storm and several other things. So my proposal for you guys would be to combine the mapping project that we've talked about so much with the smoke testing program, put them in one, get a bulk discount, and get it knocked out within the next few months. Obviously, it would be more expensive than just a smoke testing program, but it would be significantly less expensive than doing
Both of them,
separate
yeah.
things.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
On the, with the consent order negotiations, it's looking like we may be needing, or I was gonna say forced, but we need to do the smoke testing, but sewer modeling is something that's being discussed as well, and we have nothing right now that we could use for sewer modeling. So having it mapped, but then having those elevations of the bottom of all the manholes is really important for the sewer modeling. And they're gonna have the manhole covers lifted anyway to do the smoke testing. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of
What percentage of the city are we looking to have done? 100%?
Yeah, the whole
Okay.
thing.
Yeah. Because this
Even the stuff that's already been
they
replaced and,
RK&K has some of it, and they're just gonna compile it with
Okay.
the new. But yeah, we need the smoke testing for the sake of MDE compliance, and while they're in there, it would just makes perfect sense to go ahead and knock everything out at once. So, and I'd be happy to. I can talk about this kind of stuff ad nauseum because I think it's interesting. So, but if there are any questions,
I think it's good. I like it.
I'll have a proposal from RK&K hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I don't think by next week on Thursday, but I'll have updates for you all soon. So. Fishing pier. So BB&A just got me the design proposal for the fishing pier. We've talked about this in the past. The fishing pier itself, the actual work and the cost to go into it will be POS funded through Garrett County. We asked for $75,000. The city has to come up with a 10% match for overall costs. Our 10% match would be this design costs for BB&A. It would definitely be wise of us to have it designed. It is a fishing pier over top of water, and it's ADA accessible. It's just smart to have someone's stamp
Yeah,
on that.
sure.
So it would be, I think it'd be really wise to have BB&A design it, put the contract together, and then that's our cost. We go to Garrett County and say, hey, we have this design. It costs us this much. Can you give us the rest to build the thing? And the last one, so you guys can be done with me soon, is the Columbia Gas agreement for road repair pavements. We've already talked about this a ton, but since it's an agreement, wanted to run it by you guys first. This has been off of my estimates and Columbia Gas's reclamation estimator, along with Columbia Gas's head of engineering, Nathan Greist. The total number is $904,136. That's for us to come through and have Belt remediate everything that Columbia Gas did.
which they've already started.
Yes. Yeah. So this is just Columbia Gas is they've agreed to give us the money. They're fine. This is just to get mayor and council's approval before we sign off.
Okay.
All right. Hayden, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ed.
good work.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you very much.
And Patricia Henley is happy about the crosswalk. So.
Oh. Yeah, State Highway. They were waiting on their painting contractor to get back in town to finish that one. So put a little pressure on them.
That's so weirdo. They skipped that when they did all the others.
Weird.
So this is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already been hearing it.
Oh, really?
So Halloween is on a Monday.
I would think
So
Sunday.
What about
Would be-
Saturday?
you're gonna be hated no matter what you decide.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
forewarn you, or you're gonna make the wrong decision no matter what you decide. Saturday, Sunday, or Monday.
Yeah.
I think Saturday would be the, you know,
I don't know.
Okay,
Oh, I mean, we've had it on Sundays in the past. I I mean, I'm not going anyway, so it doesn't,
You're not,
not this year.
you're going as yourself. It's
Donnie,
like
what night you want to have trick or treat?
I don't know, I think Saturday
What are
would
the
be
choices?
more.
I think,
Saturday, Sunday, or Monday?
Haven't they always done it on Sundays?
Have they?
I think
That's all over the place.
I don't think so. I don't think it's always.
I
been
think
that.
last year it was on a Sunday, because 31st was a Sunday.
Yes.
I would say Sunday. Nobody's got anything else going on that night, usually.
I mean, there shouldn't be any other activities unless it be a church activity.
The parents won't be at a Halloween party.
Yeah, true. We'll get more parents.
Idea.
I'm fine with whatever y'all want. Sunday's fine with me, or
You said
I
Sunday?
still like Sunday.
Okay,
Alright,
Sunday,
there you go.
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday it is.
Big decision made. Sunday.
We're so good at these decisions.
All right. General discussion. Anybody else have anything?
I mean, do you think, I think we need to talk about a number for the fire department again. I mean,
Yeah.
now that all this information is out
Right.
here.
So they're gonna be with that 500,000 from, I can't remember.
Is
You
it
get some
state?
delegation. That's gonna be
Delegation.
Yeah, it's state funded, right?
And their own truck fund, that'll only get them a little bit over $1 million,
Right.
if
Yeah.
we go through with 500,000. So,
And their original request
It was
was
750, actually 800.
It
800.
was 750 for the apparatus
Yeah.
replacement and then 50 for
So-
car.
I have some notes here of things I want to look into, and because they don't need to do an audit now,
Mhm.
and you still have requested their financial statements, and they're a couple years out, can I review a few things
I
before
think
that's
that's wise,
discussed
yeah.
again?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion items?
Our meeting next week is early
At-
because we're going to
Yes.
the thing at WISP.
It is at 3 p.m. and I do not believe I will be here because of medical appointment. So I've asked Chief Costello to sit in for me, and he has agreed.
That'll be just right.
So
Well, that just turned into a 4-hour meeting.
You won't make Gary County.
Are we gonna carpool to,
yes, and Mr. Kirby is accompanying the Frostburg delegation as well. So
I will not be there.
yes,
Yes.
I think I
Yeah.
knew that already.
Yeah.
and Donnie's gonna be gone too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, so there's three of us.
And maybe me.
Okay.
TBD.
To be determined. Okay.
Excellent.
All right, you good, folks? So we can adjourn?
Yep.
All right.
No, we have a closed session, so
Yeah.
I need someone to read that before you.
Well, I'm
Before
going
you-
to adjourn to closed session.
Okay,
Yes.
can
I
you,
was just
can,
following your English.
sorry, can you read that, someone read that first?
Closing statement on the inundated code of Maryland, Article 3-305B, 3. The closed session may be held consideration acquisition of real property for public purpose and matters directly related to that acquisition. A closed session is required for the purpose of discussing a property acquisition to facilitate the development of a city downtown parking lot and in order to protect the city's bargaining power in a real estate transaction. Transaction. I have a motion and a second to go into closed session.
I move that we, adjourn to closed session.
Second.
Moving and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Donnie, say aye.
He's,
Closing up, we got one, okay.
I'm on mute.
Aye, okay, all right, stay with us for 2 minutes and we're all out then, okay?
Yeah, I just, you didn't hear all the background.
yeah, I understand.